Hello, everyone. It's been a hot minute. Uh, I've not made a video for a while. I bought a house. I've been busy. Um, a new OBR book came out, and I wanted to get some games in before I talked about it. Because first impressions just from reading or watching, Honest Wargamer streams can be inaccurate or biased. Um, I also was painting a bunch of new OBR stuff, so I could play them in tournaments. So all sorts of reasons I haven't made a video lately, but I'm happy to be back, and I hope you enjoyed this one, and it's a little bit informative perhaps. I have a cat meowing at me, which you may or may not be able to hear from the background, but maybe he'll make an appearance on screen at some point. And yeah, I just thought I would. I'll probably make a couple videos about the new OBR book. Um, I've gotten about 10 games. I think 10 games exactly in with them so far. Um, I just this last weekend went to the Battle to End Alzheimer's GT. Hello. Oh my goodness. All right, he's gonna have to come up here. He's whiny. Um, Went to the Battle to End Alzheimer's GT, which was at Dover Downs in Delaware. I think this is the fourth year at least that I've gone. I won't talk about it too much, but the 40K side is huge. There were about 24 people for AOS. It's a good event. And I think I'll make a separate video just talking about games and stuff from that. And this one I'm just going to focus on the book overall, and I figured I would have some fun and make a little tier list because people tend to like those. And just talk about the units and all that good stuff. I kind of meant to have the book here with me, but I guess I'll just pull out my phone. The basic summary is that I like the book quite a bit. I think it's very strong. It's definitely a change from the old OBR book, and I understand why that bothers a lot of people, because it feels like a very different style of book now. The new style of the book happens to be like my ideal army and my ideal way to play Warhammer. I was a Wood Elf player back in Fantasy for 10 or 12 years. So I love a good like mixed arms list that's very fast and has some shooting and has some hitty techie combat units and all that sort of thing. So I'm happier than a pig in mud with this OBR book. But I understand that people do not like the switch. The people who are into OBR because it was a tough, castle anvil army with a bunch of stacking buffs and you had your big strong elite units. I understand why those people are not super happy because it is quite a shift. And I also understand the complaints about the book, like the battle traits are not terribly interesting, the sub-factions. The main battle trait is basically command points 2.0. We have a second resource for doing command point type things. And that's just, compared to like the Tzeentch getting to pull units up and teleport them around and put them back down, or like the Lumineth, like super themey, cool, like you're inscribing runes thing, or Nurgle disease. It hits a little bit flat, and I get that. It's very strong. It's just not like the most interesting thing in the world. And then of course things like the battle formations are just a bit boring. I could see a couple being used, but I guess to me, I guess I'll start talking about what I think is strong or not. To me, the auto 4 run and redeploy is wildly better than the others, specifically because it also applies to redeploys for now. One thing that just makes it so strong is we have this limited relentless discipline points economy now, and being able to know that you can auto 4 run something, well, everything auto 4 runs, knowing that if you roll a run, you're going to get at least a 4, to be able to guarantee like getting to a point or, whatever else you might need to get into position. The other option for guaranteeing that is either you spend a command point to go auto 6, or you spend a relentless discipline or 2 relentless discipline if the thing is reinforced, to go your extra 3 inches, but you can't run. So it's just guaranteeing you have enough movement to do all sorts of things throughout the game, and it's just extremely powerful and has synergies that I'll get into later with things like the Reapers and their other movement ability and things like that. So to me, the auto run 4, which I believe is Remorseless, yes, Remorseless Conquerors, is just stronger than the others. One of the other things that I guess it feels bad about the book is that a lot of things that we used to just have built in are now conditional on either taking a sub-faction or having to cast to get back something you used to have, or spend RDP to get back something that used to be, free within the bubble, that sort of thing. So I get that too. So, for example, the Border Guards, passive melee weapons used by friendly OBR, have anti-charge +1 rend while they're wholly within neutral territory or wholly within 6 of both enemy and friendly territory. We used to just be able to just get +1 anti-charge rend in the combat phase through Relentless Discipline, and now it's locked behind a sub-faction and has additional conditions on it based on where you are on the board and all that sort of thing. I still think that I could see that sub-faction having play, actually. Especially if in... we survived. Obviously, we didn't get any changes this GHB, but especially if in, or not GHB, this last Battle Scroll, we didn't get any changes because our book was new. But I could see if in the next, GHB or the next scroll, if, Remorseless Conquerors cost points and the others are free because everyone's taking Remorseless Conquerors, I could see Grim Sentinels, or Border Guards, I guess is the sub-faction. I could see that having play because you're doing a lot of fighting in the mid-board, and there are other reasons in the army that you perhaps want to be the one getting charged in some situations versus the enemy, or you charging the enemy. Nanorite Wedge just seems real bad. That's Ruthless Legion. That's the name of the rule. By the way, I hate the fact that the sub-faction has a name, and then the rule that the sub-faction gives you has a name. Whatever. The next one, once per turn army phase on a 3-up, you get crit 2 hits, including melee weapons, or including companion weapons, which, I don't know. Cool, I guess. You would use this on horses probably, and the Death Riders don't have 2 damage on the charge natively anymore. I guess if you're taking Xanthos and 10 riders, maybe this is good, but it's bad. It's not good. It is in fact bad. And then Inevitable Empire, pick an enemy unit. Again, it's a once per turn thing in your hero phase. On a 3-up, you can make a unit have a max control score of 1 while it is within neutral or your territory. So again, it's just a super niche thing. You'll never take it because we have other ways to mess with control score. Anyway, so the battle formations are underwhelming. The artifacts, definitely there's 2 usable. I've been using Shard of Necros to make something only get hit on 5s and 6s if you don't charge, which is annoying at many times. Some people have also been using Amulet of Gnosis to not take mortals when you retreat. I can see the use in that. And then the book lore is just a little bad. It's very underwhelming. We took our crit 2 hits away from most things in the army and put them in a spell, and it's very underwhelming. Immolating Flames, fine, whatever. Drain Vitality is still a fantastic spell, but it's not the unlimited spell, sadly. So a little bit of a miss on the, on those. Heroic traits, I can honestly see a use for all of them, but Imperious Will does seem to come on top a little bit. Let me rephrase that. Just reading them, I said, all of these might have play. And in fact, I did use Manufactured Mind in 1 or 2 games as just a backup if my main RDP generator got killed. But now having played, Imperious Will is amazing. Just being able to do an extra bad D3 damage mortals every time something near that hero activates is amazing, especially given that it seems like the book is kind of pushing you towards a little bit of an MSU style with the Reapers and the the horses and all of those things. But even if you have, say you have a unit of Mortek Guard and a unit of a Mortis Guard or Morghast or something, or just a couple little units like that, or hell, even if your Triax has gotten to combat and your hero is close enough by, doing 3d3 mortals, amazing. It's just very good. Overall army things before I get into the unit tier list. Any last things? Our manifestation lore was always amazing, and it only got better somehow. I don't know who wrote this book, who thought that the manifestations needed to get better, but they did, and they were already incredible. You would never in 1,000 years take a different manifestation lore than the book lore that we have, because it's amazing. Minus 10 control score within 6 inches is absurd. The spooky ghost fights well, and minus 1 ward safe in a bubble is just incredible. Like it's everything you could ask for and more in a manifestation lore. It's just honestly insane that it is that good, to the point where I think you need it. I don't know. I would be. It would be very hard to convince me to take a list that doesn't have at least 2 casts, even though I don't like the book lore. The manifestations are so good, and at least as of now, we still have the Scourge of Goran lore, which I think is much better than the book lore. I think +1 attack is better in most cases than getting crit 2 hits back, which is essentially +1 to hit, especially because I like taking Morghasts still, which I'll talk about, and they already have crit 2 hits on them. So, you +1 attack, I think in that case is better. I haven't done the math. Maybe I'm wrong. Whatever, it's fine. And then, ignore first damage of every phase is just always a fantastic ability. That's just a winner. And honestly, I forget what the third spell is in that lore, because I don't think I ever cast it. Let me look real quick. What is it? Oh, yeah, no, actually, it's... Oh my god, how could I forget? I did cast this spell many a time, and it can be an absolute game winner, because there are less... In the lists I've taken, I do not have other healing, other than Rally. The third spell in the Soggy lore is to do D3 mortals, and if you kill a model, you can heal 3, or bring 3 single wound models back, for example, or 1 horse. So that's amazing. That's fantastic. All of that said, there were a lot of complaints in that. I think the book is very strong. I'm very much enjoying the book. Like I said, I went 3-1-1 at the Battle to End Alzheimer's, and with painting, that meant I took best overall. My buddy Roger, by the way, shout out, went 5-0 with KO and got the ticket to Barcelona and everything, the golden ticket to the World Championships, which is amazing. Good job, Roger. I'm glad that me having to play your KO paid off, because might be tired of that. I went 3-1-1 in that. Did I go 2-1 at the RTT I went to? I think I went 2-1 in an RTT, and I've won 2 other games just on TTS playing with friends. So I'm 8-2 with the new book, I think, which is a positive sign. With a couple different lists too. So I think it's very strong, and hopefully this tier list will help you make decisions to get these strengths out of the book and do well. The first thing we have to talk about, the elephant in the room, our good friend Catacross. Used to be an S tier in the index in the old book. He is here now. I don't think I will ever take Catacross in the new book. To the point where as I already said, some of the book is a little boring. We'll talk about some of the units are very good, but reading Catacross's War Scroll legitimately made me wonder if the author of this book plays Age of Sigmar or like has ever played OBR. I think this is just a trash tier war scroll. It does give you the most RDP, but I don't think this is the way you want to get a lot of RDP. I could be wrong on this. Maybe there are uses for I think you would have to come down at least 100 points, honestly, for me to start thinking about using Catacross. There's just a lot of like anti-synergy within his own war scroll, where like the things you want to be doing with him based on some of his abilities conflict with the other abilities. First of all, he's slow. He's still 4 inches. And you can spend an RDP to make him 7, but then I don't know. That's fine. He's still got, I mean, he's just 3 attacks with the Ren 2 3 damage weapon that has crit 2 hits. I swear he used to have more, but I could be wrong. He still has a little bit of fuckery with commands, but instead of a reactive 5-up once per turn to cancel a command, you have to preemptively select a unit, and on a 3-up say that unit can't use commands for the rest of the turn. Now that can be very good. Let's not sugarcoat that. That is a good ability. It's a visible enemy with an 18, so it's a little restricted. But the real killer is like you're taking him for the 10 relentless discipline points, and his battle damage is once he takes 10 damage points, he only generates 4 IDP. So your 500 point model that's a quarter of your army that you're largely taking for the relentless discipline, it gets neutered the moment he takes 10 damage, which he has a 3-up save and the ward save and everything, but like your opponent's probably going to be targeting Catacross, I would think. That it just seems bad. And his passive is add 3 to control scores of visible friendly OBR units that have... Oh, sorry, I misread that. Add 3 to control scores of units that have used Relentless Discipline abilities this turn. That is kind of nice. We do have a lot of control score stuff in the army. I don't know that would be that impactful, because we have the power to spread out now and go take points that people aren't contesting. I'm not super sold on that. And then again, also he has a combat phase ability where he can spend RDP equal to the target's health plus 1 if it's reinforced, and gives the unit fight twice with strike last, as most of these things are. But Catacross can't be in combat, so he has to have the visible friendly unit wholly within 12 of him, but he himself can't be in combat. And there's enough mobility in the game and enough movement shenanigans and all that other stuff that a good opponent is just not... There are lots of ways to not let you use this ability, right? And also, you probably... Like, he has a good combat profile to an extent. It's worse than it was, I think. But, like, you also want to be fighting with him, but you can't fight with him and use his signature ability, and it's just... I don't know. Once per battle, if half of your units have been destroyed, which is not a good thing. You don't want your units getting destroyed. You add 5 to his spear and 3 to his shield attack, so he becomes much better, but then you can't use the fight anymore. So it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's so many trade-offs in this War Scroll that make it just weird to use. I'm less upset about using the +1 save on 3 units than I think a lot of people are. I actually don't mind losing that ability. I'm just mad at how the rest of the War Scroll just doesn't feel like it meshes together now. I will give him a try, I think. I'm not going to like take him to a tournament, but I think I will try him in some casual games. But I just don't see this being a 500 point scroll. And like the going Super Saiyan thing is cool, but if you've lost half your units, AOS has a lot of momentum in it, and if you have lost half of your units, especially in an army, if 500 points of your army is in Catacross, you're not going to have that many units. So if you've lost half of them, things are going poorly, and I'm never relying on him popping off with his forge movement and like killing a bunch of things. I don't know. The fight twice thing is cute. In my head, and I think in a lot of people's minds, people were like, oh, make Morghasts fight twice, because Morghasts are the blender. I think there's possibly some more clever things you can do with that, and maybe one should think about using that on like the Mortis Reapers, who are only 2 health. So maybe you have a reinforced unit of 10. It's 30 attacks at Ren 1 damage. That's not bad. And then you're only using like 3 RDP on that. Or even... Oh man, does this... No, never mind. Sorry. I was trying to think if there was some combo with this to make like Triaxes shoot again with the Legion Mortec, but that would be... Even if it's possible, it's a lot of RDP because he's 5 health. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. So in summary, friendship with Catacross is over, is ended. Archon is my new best friend. So let's go to Archon next. Archon got a bit of a glow up. He's similar to what he was. I think it's a bit of a glow up. I would definitely not put him in S tier. I think I would put him in A tier. By the way, I went A, B, C, F. Sue me. Whatever. To me, I think Archon is in like A or B tier. Ren 3. I value Ren 3 very highly. So 5 companion attacks on Force 2 Ren 3 damage is kind of wild, and he's probably getting more attacks than that based on the Rampage. So just being a 14-inch fly move monster that can deliver a bunch of Ren 3 attacks potentially is spicy. So I think that's great. The battle damage passive is not bad. It's just the claws go down to 3 from 5 attacks. It's not horrible. And even having 4 staff attacks at 3/4s Ren 1 D3 damage, occasionally a mage with some D3 damage attacks, I've absolutely seen pop off and like swing a game. Like that's not bad either. And you know, he can go to 3s with an RDP potentially. He has the weird little extra unbind that I played 4 games with Archon. I played the RTT with Archon, and I think one other game with him. I don't think I've ever remembered to use this or been in range, because it is shorter range than a normal Unbind. It's 18 instead of 30. But still, you know, whatever. That's cute, fine. The Rampage, like I said, the extra attacks on Ren 3 attacks is great. And really the big thing for me is the +1 to cast, because like I said, our manifestations are amazing, and the Soggy lore is very good, even if we end up having to take the book lore if Scourge of Garon goes away. You know, Drain Vitality is very good. This is not like it's the end of the world to have to use the book lore. It's just not as good as it was, not as good as the Soggy one, I don't think. So having +1 to cast on all the manifestations, I think, is massive and very helpful. And he heals every time he, you know, casts successfully. So that's just great. And then Curse of Years, whichever lore you take, he still has Curse of Years. Is, you know, it's so fun. You have basically I forget if it's like a 2.5 or a 5% chance. It's 5 or less than 5% chance to delete a unit if you get 8 withering points. So a very low chance, but when it happens, it's fantastic and amazing and fun, for me at least, for the OBR player. In the RTT, I was losing a game to Stormcast, and I still ended up losing, but I did Curse of Years 4 Storm Drakes off the board, which is just about the most wounds and the max value you can get out of a Curse of Years, and it was amazing. It tells you how that game was going. That didn't win me the game, but was very good. The other thing with Archon is I think in that RTT, I think I came out of that thinking that I was playing much too safe with Archon. I think I had a lot of room to be more aggressive with him and throw him into things with those Ren 3 attacks. I think I was just keeping him back and keeping him safe more than I needed to. Like, that's a War Scroll where, like, he can go dominate a flank by himself against some, little chaff shitty flank units. Like, absolutely. He can also charge in with other things and dish out some damage. So I'm going to leave him at, I would say the way I have used him so far, he would be B, but I think he has the potential to be A tier if I played better and utilized him better. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in A tier for now. Soul Mason is the next one I saw there. A little, I was going to say a little expensive, but no, I think he's pointed fine at 150 because he is a wizard too. One of the things that bothers me about a couple of the wizards in the list, I wish there was, this is mainly because I don't like the book lore very much. I do wish a couple more of the wizards had a War Scroll spell, and the Soul Mason does. And it's a good spell. Strike first for the turn is good. To me, I think I would only take the Soul Mason if I was taking Morghast Archai to give him the +1 to cast, and potentially to do that in the enemy phase to give the Morghast strike first in the enemy turn. But again, having a 2-cast wizard is good. He doesn't fly, unlike the couple of the other foot wizards, which is good. I think basically you're either going to take, you would never take Archon and the Soul Mason because you don't have that much stuff to cast. So just one more thought about Archon. You don't need more than, I don't think you need more than 3 casts. 4 is pushing it, but acceptable. You definitely do not need 5 casts in this army. So I would never invest in both of these at the same time. I think Archon largely just solves your magic output for you, and then you don't need any more wizards. So I would be inclined to take Archon with a Liege Kavalos and a Liege Mortek, or maybe Xantos and that kind of thing. I'm going to leave Soul Mason here just for now because I need something in B tier, and I think I'm personally less inclined to take the Soul Mason, take them, than I am to take Archon. One of my old favorites is the Ossifector. I am a big fan of catapults and Morghasts, and those are 2 of the only things in the book, maybe the only 2 things in the book, that did not lose their native crit 2 hits. So given that I value both of those units very highly, and the Ossifector has synergy with both, I rate the Ossifector pretty highly, but given that it's a situational unit, there's a 0% chance you're taking the Ossifector if you don't have either Morghasts or Catapult. And I really think you probably only take him if you have both. So I'm going to put him in B as situationally good. The 3 up for the extra rend is very nice, and then just being a caster is good. Maybe he's situational enough that he goes to C for now. I'm going to put him in C for now. He might end up in B. The Bone Shaper... Honestly, I think just a lot of the Foot Wizards end up in B tier, where, like, you can put them in a list. They're definitely not mandatory. Yeah, I haven't used the Bone Shaper myself yet, but 3 extra rally dice is always pretty great. I'm talking too much. I will talk about things other than Morghast, but obviously a lot of my thinking revolves around I like my 4 Morghasts. Having 9 dice gives you a chance for the real spicy rally roll to get a full Morghast back with 6 out of 9 4-ups. There's absolutely a world where that happens, especially if you're trying to rally them a couple times in a game. And then just being able to bring a Mortek Guard or Trix's back for a CP is great. That's fantastic. So I definitely see a place for the Bone Shaper. And then the last of the Foot Heroes. This is gonna be my first hot take. Or sorry, not last of the Foot Heroes, last of the Foot Wizards. This is gonna be my hottest take, maybe of the whole video. Soul Reaper, absolute fucking S tier for me. No question in my mind that Soul Reaper is S tier. I'm probably not leaving home without a Soul Reaper. I'm not taking a list that I don't have the Soul Reaper. It's so fucking good. Rob, love Honest Wargamer. But in his book review, he was like, I don't see a place for the Soul Reaper. Wild to me. Oh my god, it's so fucking good. This is your only way to generate Relentless Discipline points other than your start of battle round, pick a hero, get their number of RDP. And a lot of people have been putting Shard of Necros, you only get hit on 5s and 6s on their Liege Mortek. Slap it on the Soul Reaper. Move the Soul Reaper into the middle of the board with whatever fighty unit you have, and just farm RDP all game. Just get this son of a bitch in combat as soon as you can, and just farm RDP for the rest of the game. He was amazing in the Index with the -1 to wound aura, which they still have. And now you can make them only get hit on 5s and 6s. One anyway. You take 1, you don't take 2. The Soul Reaper has single-handedly won me multiple of the 10 games that I've played. Like, the amount of RDP I have gotten in a game from the Soul Reaper has on multiple occasions been like 12 plus RDP, which is amazing. In the wise words of my friend Roger, I don't know if you know math, but your whole army taking a third less damage is good. Going to a 5-up ward save is amazing. And having extra RDP to play with, which, by the way, he generates in every turn, every combat phase. So not just once per battle round, he's generating every combat phase if he's in combat, is absurdly good. Like, if you go from having 5 or 7 RDP in a battle round to having 15, which is not out of the question if you have this guy in combat, whatever. If you have this non-binary Thembo in combat, with say 2 units, getting 10 extra RDP in a battle round is not out of the question. It's wild. It is wild what you can do if you have 10 extra RDP in a battle round. Like, I don't understand how this is not in every list. In my game, my last game at the GT, I ended up with this model in combat with 2 units of Quester Soulsworn over like 2 turns. He killed both of them and farmed me like again, like 15 RDP. Just incredibly, incredibly good. And it's not even a bad D3. It's, I think, a good D3. Yeah. Oh, no, it is a bad D3. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're in combat with 2 units. You're averaging 4 RDP every turn. It's incredible. Not to mention just doing the damage. We have multiple things in this army that will do D3 mortals to every unit in combat with them in a turn, which is incredible. And, sorry, he's got 4 attacks now with crit 2 hits still. One of the few things in the book that kept crit 2 hits with Ren 2 D3 damage. Fantastic. Fantastic. And you're not going to be sad about dropping an RDP to make this guy wound on 3s either, because you're going to be getting extra RDP from him. Just S tier. Best unit in the book. Best model in the book. I don't care. It's amazing. Legion Mortec, I would say A tier. I'm sold, I think, on this. Honestly, I'm partially sold on it for just having a backup for RDP generation, if like Xantos or the Liege Cavalos dies. I did get some use out of the triggering a unit to shoot in combat. It's a little sometimes difficult to set up. I was a little skeptical going in, but like I did get some use out of that, and almost more than actually doing it, my opponents being afraid of it, I felt had a lot of utility, because it was a threat that they had to keep in mind and potentially deal with. So I'm just going to throw him in A. He's a good little foot hero. I think this was an A for effort. Good job, GW, for writing this scroll. You made a good foot hero. It doesn't always happen. The other liege, I'm very sad that, I will say right now, I'm very sad all of the liege heroes went to 4-ups to wound. This is extremely, whatever. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. I hate it. I hate that they went to 3s to wound, and 4s to wound, and you need to spend RDP to get them back to 3s to wound. I think it would have been totally reasonable to have them at 3s to wound base, and then you could go to 2s to wound with an RDP. It would have felt more heroic, but like these guys having the same wound roll as a freaking Mortec guard just feels bad. I think it was a very silly decision. I think it would have been totally in bounds in terms of strength to give these guys 3-ups to wound. But of course, that's not where this real strength is coming from. The strength of the Liege Cavalos is coming from putting Imperi's Will on him and running at least 2 units of Death Riders with him, and just chaining a bunch of mortals that then let you go 12 inches. It's insane. So I ran at the GT a Liege Cavalos and 2 units of Death Riders, and was just like, I was a little blown away at how much both damage and utility that little combo had. Because I explained to all my opponents, like at the start of the game, how they work, and like the worst case scenario for you, my opponent, is that this guy and both Death Rider units get into a unit, or into combat. So then each Death Rider unit is going to be doing 1 bad D3 and 2 straight D3s of mortal damage to whatever they go into. Plus this guy is going to fight. Plus all 3 units are going to be able to move 12 inches after they activate, which is just insane. And the fact that the Liege Cavalos doesn't need to be in combat to trigger the extra D3 mortals on the Death Riders, he just needs to be in combat range of the Death Rider unit, is also crazy. Because he doesn't even have to necessarily get into danger to be able to be making the Death Riders have more mortals. So yeah, like 6 D3 mortals plus a fight from this guy, which is worse than it used to be, but can still pop off and do some damage. And then they all get to move 12 inches is insane. It's very good. I'm tempted to bump him up into S tier, but I'm going to leave him in A for now. I'm going to leave him top of A for now. Thokmortian, I don't know. I haven't really read his War Scroll. I don't really have comments on him. I guess I could look at him now. I was underwhelmed. He's got a little shooting attack. He's got Ren 1. He's got Mortal Contract, which I never got much use out of. It is interesting that Voice of Nagash is now a command point ability in the enemy hero phase, so you can use it multiple times per game. Target cannot be picked to be the target of or be affected by any non-core abilities used by other enemy units for the rest of the turn. It's a way lamer version of what he used to have. I don't know. I'm putting him in C. Nobody's in C yet. He gets to go in C. Xantos, I think, is very good. I think Xantos might end up being A tier. Just because he's 7 RDP. It's only one more than the Liege Cavalis, I guess. But he does have Ren 2 built in. He has 3 ups to wound built in. And I value Strike First very highly, or Strike Last things. Anything that can mess with order of activation, I value very highly. So I think I'm putting Xantos in A tier. Yeah, he can live at the bottom of A tier, I think. I honestly might put him above the Liege Mortek. There are going to be games, I don't know, there's going to be games where you're not going to need this. You're not going to need to get, I don't know, it's very nice insurance if your Traxxas get in combat, and of course, they only need to be wholly within 12 of him to trigger. Like, I think this is a case where I need to get better at using him, but whatever. I'm going to put Xantos slightly above him. Xantos is good. Xantos is fun. Fast and killy and hitty. All right. We are through... Oh, we're not through the heroes. Nagash. I've run Nagash before. Not in this book. He's not that different in the book. I don't think you're wrong if you want to play a Nagash game. I don't think it's the strong way to play the list. Especially since he's a 3 RDP is kind of brutal. But he's still a Wizard 9. I know, Kitty. I know. You're so sad. You still have the, endless spell to give things 5-up wards or return slain models or do D3 damage. All very good. +2 to cast is obviously great. I don't know. He's still a good piece. I will try Nagash at some point. Hand of Dust is still silly and fun. He's got a bunch of Ren 2 attacks. Like I said before, I value Ren very highly. Anything Ren 2 or above, I put a lot of stock in. 830 points, I don't know. I think Nagash is fine. I think Nagash is B tier. I think if you want to have fun playing your giant clown wizard, you absolutely can, and not feel like you're doing something wrong, I think is what I would say. Alright, so now we are really through the heroes. I did put the terrain feature on here, just because I wanted to say the terrain feature is amazing. S tier for sure. Obviously, it's free, points-wise anyway, not money-wise. But, and you're not going to leave home without it. Honestly, I kind of wish they had given us a new terrain feature to replace this that was on a smaller base, because there are going to be cases where you might not even be able to fit it on the board or only be able to stick it in a corner. But even in that case, even in a corner, it's very good. By the way, this is Caspian. It's my new friend. Just shutting down setups messes with so many armies, and specifically so many armies that are strong in the meta right now, or just, generally in general. Generally in general, yes. So the obvious is like, Zinch or, things that are coming in from reserve, deep striking, teleporting, whatever. So Stormcast, Zinch, Lumineth, Eltharion, Get Lost, whatever. There's a lot of more things. Big one for me is KO. So the boat taking things with it. Suddenly, turn 3, 15 inches of this thing, if you have it in decent position, can be half the board. Can especially be perhaps some very important parts of the board if you're fighting in the middle, and this is then covering that. So yeah, just being able to taking away the boat, picking up dwarves and carrying them along, fantastic, amazing. I had it kill 1 Blood Crusher in the GT. Having 2 attacks is just whatever. It's icing on the cake. So now we're to units. Let's go through units, hopefully pretty quickly. I want to keep this under an hour if I can, and we're at 45 minutes. Tradic Cohort, fine. They're a solid B. Movement shenanigans are always good. The problem I have with them is that they are only 1 health each, which is very fragile. So it's only 8 health. For 90 points, you can get twice the amount of... You don't get twice the amount of health. For 90 points, you get slightly more health in the Reapers, and you also get movement shenanigans with the Reapers, and I think they're just much better. So I think Tradic Cohort's fine. I would never take more than 1, I don't think. Morghast Archai, I think, are still... I think they're still high A tier for me. They might be S tier. +1 to cast on a 3-up anyway for your wizards is great, especially if you have a multicast wizard. Does that work with multicasts? Before I lie, let me look this up. Yeah, okay, yeah. Especially if you have a multicast wizard, it's +1 to casting rolls for the rest of the turn. So you can potentially have Archon on +2 to cast for 3 casts, or you can have the Soul Mason on +2 to cast. Sorry, +1 to cast for 2 casts. That is amazing. Having a ward against all spell damage, prayer abilities, manifestations, fantastic. They're still on a 3-up save. They're very hard to kill, so you can go, you can be on a 2-up, 5-up with all-out defense and 2 RDP for a reinforced unit. So hard to kill. You could potentially also have the ignore first damage of every phase spell on them. Still Ren 3 against monsters. They still have their crit 2 hits. They still blend so hard. I had my 4 Archai pick up 32 wounds of Zangors in one go to kill the unit. I think I think there were 32 wounds left, and I did 33 through armor. Just absolute monsters. I'm putting them in A. I love Morghasts. They are still the all-purpose like hammer and anvil. They're Hamvil? I don't know. They're hammer and an anvil. They blend everything. They're just murder machines. They're hard to kill. You can even make them harder to kill by, you could throw 10 Mortek Guard next to them to make something -1 rend. They're just a completely solid, amazing unit. Harbingers, I'm going to put in A. I'm going to put them below the other things in A, I think. I think Harbingers are still good. I rate 3d6 charges very highly, but having used both now in the new book a little bit, I think I do have to admit that the Archai are better. I think just the way the army plays, I think Archai now are a little higher value. Part of what was nice about Harbingers in the index was that they could once per game get a Relentless Discipline ability, even if they weren't in the bubble. But we don't have bubbles now, so we don't care about that. That's a little different. They are a little cheaper than the Archai by 20 points for a reinforced unit. So if you're short 20 points, I don't think it's the end of the world to go to a Harbinger unit instead of Archai. 3d6 charge also opens up some very spicy countercharge play, especially say you have a Soul Mason strike firsting something, or my personal favorite, you have a crawler that strike lasted something. So definitely still play with Harbingers. I just think I think given that a lot of the rest of the list is techie movement and like chip mortal damage and movement stuff, maybe said movement stuff twice there, I think there's a lot of value in having the big tanky fighty unit. Harvester, I haven't played with yet. I think it's fine. It's a monster. Oh no, it's a war machine, isn't it? I think it's a war machine now. Anyway, I think it's fine. I'm a little sad it lost the random shooting attack. Being able to bring back a full Morghast is obviously good. I don't know what my cat is doing, but it sounds bad. I'll wrap this up. It's fine. Being able to bring back a Morghast is good. It's got more value on the big things. I'll try it out at some point, but like, I'd say nothing about the War Scroll was like, oh, I have to take this. I got to try this out. I have, there's no list where I've like had an amount of points where I was like, I think a Harvester fits here and I want to use it. I think Stalkers are bad. I think they're not as bad as Catacross. I think they're maybe second from bottom tier. I already didn't like them in the index. I know a lot of people did. I don't own any. Actually, I own 3. That's a lie. I own 3. The fact that they've always been 1 damage just bothers me a lot. Ren 2, great. If they were Ren 2 2 damage, sold. That is a unit I would take. Ren 2 1 damage on a big ass model that's 4 wounds is it's a very weird place to me. And they're fast, and now they have a horde clear ability. It's just this is not a War Scroll that speaks to me or works for me in any of my lists. I don't know why I would take them. Move 7, cool, but your Reapers are 6 and have more movement tech, so whatever. Mortis Guard I value definitely more than the Stalkers. 3-up save, great. I would rather have Ren 1 2 damage over Ren 2 1 damage any day of the week. They have 6 theoretical damage output per model instead of 4, which is just better. And then pick a unit in combat that charged and turn off weapon abilities is potentially a huge ability to have. Turning off +1 damage on Cav and having their damage is great. I think I'd put these. I think I'd be more inclined to take 3 of these, or even honestly a block of 6 of these, over Harvester, maybe over Nagash even. I could see them fitting in a list a little more easily than either of these. This is one to me. This is probably the unit where losing anti-charge Ren hurts the most to me. I think it would have made a lot of sense given their ability to keep that on their War Scroll, and just be like, this is the unit you don't want to charge. Like, that's their thing. As it is, I think they're fine. I'm gonna do Mortec Guard after that because I think they fulfill a similar role, where you're taking a min-size unit of these to support other units. So like you can build a pretty nice little castle thing, kind of like the old index where you, with the Catacross and the +1 armor and all of that, you can build a pretty nice little, here's my 4 Morghast Archai, here's a unit of 10 Mortec Guard to subtract from your Rend if you attack them. Maybe here's some Mortis Guard with a Soul Reaper behind them. where like you know, if you go in, you're gonna be at -1 to wound and no abilities. These two seem like they're much more defensive units where they're providing defensive utility, and I think that's fine. I kind of think that their abilities should have been swapped, and that's kind of honestly, that's kind of a theme. Oh my god. I'll finish this thought and then I'll say what I just realized. This will tell you a lot about what I'm about to say. I think there's a few units where the choice of which ability goes on which unit in the book is strange to me. I kind of think the Mortek Guard ability should have been on the Immortus Guard, and the Immortus Guard ability should have been on the Mortek Guard. I think it would make more sense to me for the Immortus Guard. Their role has always been guarding another unit. It used to just be heroes and giving more ward save. It would have been more fitting with the established theme of the unit to have the Immortus Guard be able to give another unit rend defense, whatever I'm trying to say. -1 to the rend of a unit attacking another unit. That would have made more sense on the Immortus Guard. And then the Mortek Guard were always like, we stand behind our shields, we're hard to kill. Give the no charge bonuses to them because they're behind their shield wall. I don't know. It's just some weird decisions to me. And the hilarious thing I just realized, talking about this, is that I completely forgot that the chariots exist. I didn't add a picture of the chariots to this thing here. Just assume that the chariots are down here in F tier with Catacross. Reading the rules previews, I was like, maybe GW will finally write a chariot war scroll that's not terrible. But it turns out GW is still allergic to making good chariot war scrolls. It just feels like GW doesn't know what to do with chariots to make them work in AOS in a way that anybody is satisfied with, or like works in the game, or works in the game without being toxic to the game, like perhaps the wolf chariots were at some point. It might just be time to throw in the towel, GW, and just acknowledge that you can't write a chariot or a scroll and give up. So I think, I don't know, kind of the problem is they're on big enough bases that if they get cheap enough to be taking, then you can then take enough of them to just like block up so much of the board it becomes a problem. But to my previous point, it kind of feels to me that like the Death Rider ability of doing mortals and bouncing out of combat should have been a chariot ability. Like that to me sounds like, oh, my chariot smashed into you. Instead of fighting, we smashed into you and we like ran through your unit and out the other side, and here we go, off we go to wherever else. That would have made infinitely more sense to me than I don't know. I mean, they kind of have that in their combat phase ability. They do T3 Mortals, and then you take it off and you set it up within an inch. Sure, I just don't know why. I don't know why the Death Riders also needed an ability like that. Is just a little strange. The 3-up, do 1 mortal, and unit can't make pile-ins. I don't know. There could be tech there, I guess, of some sort, but I don't know. Maybe those are lowest C tier or above Catacross and D tier. Triax is very good, very solid unit. I want them to be, there we go. I'd say top of A. Just having consistent ranged output that your opponent has to worry about and is a threat is very good, especially given that a lot of these things, a lot of your stuff is kind of defensive and you want your opponent to actually be charging you, especially like Shard of Necros, where if you charge, they can just hit you, which is bad. Turns out. There's a lot of things that you want them to be, you want to be able to force the opponent to come to you and not just ignore you, and having ranged threat does that. So these are high A, low S. I don't want to stack the S too much. They're very high A just in that they're a perfect addition to the army. they force things to come to you. And Catapult, I would say, is very similar in that it is another ranged threat. It is a little less consistent, but it can spike real hard. I always tell my opponents every turn, this is either going to do 2 damage to you, or it's going to do 24 damage to you. Like, I've had this in a counter shoot, spike 3 6s to hit, and do 29 damage to a unit of Agrodons. This is not an exaggeration. This is something that has happened to me. And that's not the likeliest thing in the world, but the fact that that can happen is terrifying. And again, the Aspector pairs with that. Like, I don't think you maybe take a Catapult without the Aspector. Like I said, you don't take an Aspector without Morghast or Catapult, but Morghast plus Catapult plus an Aspector is a nice little unit where you're potentially getting a bunch of Ren 2 attacks from range, and then you're going to a 3-up on all your rolls to make the opponent strike last. And just getting +1 on those rolls is worth taking the Aspector, like 100%. The fact that every opponent turn you have a potential to countershoot this and make something of their strike last is fantastic. It's amazing. And I would put that higher in the A tier than I initially put it. I don't want to stack the S tier, like I said, but I think at their current points, Mortis Reapers might be S tier. That's not to say I'm taking like 40 of them, but I've had 1 or 2 units in every one of my lists, and they're amazing. They can hug terrain to stay obscured. They can do movement shenanigans. They're just very good for like scouting force. They do some damage. They keep ending up being harder to kill than I think they should be because you just slap a 5-up ward on them. And like I said before, taking a 1/3 less damage on all of your units is good. But yeah, even a 5-up on 10 wounds doesn't sound like that much, but your opponent is probably not investing the resources to kill them, and then it can be very surprising how tanky that 5-up ends up feeling when they're just like fighting other chaff or things like that. Also, like, I had a game where one of these survived and did do 3 mortals and bounced out of combat, and then I rallied 1 back, and then I was able to use them to eat a counter shoot from something else that I didn't want going into my more important unit. Then, like, by fluke, they survived the counter shoot, and like my 1 guy alive was able to like do movement stuff to go take another point. Just for these need to go up points, and I'm gonna be sad when they do. But for 90 points especially, they are S tier. If these go up to 110, which I think would probably be within the realm of possibility and reasonable, they might go down to top of A. But they're very good. And I think Death Riders, I hate it. I hate it, but I think they might have to go S tier. They're so good. They're hard to kill. You're at that 10 points a wound, like, average medium unit price point, which is crazy for what they do. I am still very sad and devastated and just inconsolable that they don't have +1 damage on the charge natively anymore. You need Xantos for that, which is silly. But it might be a little busted, even so. Just like I said, 3d3 mortals instead of fighting, and then you move another 12 inches is absolutely wild. You're getting back into the backfield to do scouting force. You're taking objectives with that. You are threatening backfield squishy targets with that. And you also always have the option to just fight. So like I had a time where I got both units into a unit. The first one spiked to like 8 mortals on the 3d3, which is just Pain Town. And my opponent pulled enough that... My opponent pulled such that the second unit wasn't in combat. And you don't get to pile in. I don't think. Don't quote me on this. I could be wrong. My understanding at the time, which I may have messed up, was picking the D3 Mortals fight ability. You don't get a pile in. I might be completely wrong on this. Do not quote me on this. I'm not looking it up right now. I could be completely wrong. Regardless, that's how I played it. And I was just like, oh, well, then I just pick a normal fight so I can still pile in and just fight with their normal attacks. And like 3s, 4s, Ren 1 damage is not amazing. But with 3 attacks each, 16 attacks, you're going to get some damage through. And like in that case, it was enough that I ended up killing the unit anyway. And I didn't really need to move anywhere with that second unit. I had already moved another unit 12 inches and the Leech Cavalos wherever he wanted to go. Just insane. And 15 wounds on a 4-up, 5-up. I'm counting the RDP, obviously. Is incredible. Also, you're probably not reinforcing this, so it's only 1 RDP every time. That's fine. Yeah, so looking in summary, it's a very good book. The good stuff is all in the War Scrolls. The army, that's not even true. It's a bunch of very solid War Scrolls. The sub-factions are a little boring. The battle trait is boring but strong. And I stand by my hottest take that the Soul Reaper might be the best thing in the book. And it's a wizard! You get all the things I talk about, and it's 1-cast wizard. Why would you not take it? I would probably take it at 160 points. Anyway, it's a very good book. I find it to be very fun to play. I know it's an adjustment from the Index and the old book. It's a slightly different style. I do think people overacted a little bit. I think you can still play a very elite tanky style. Like I said, with like 4 Archai, with some like Mortek Guard and a Mortis Guard support, a Soul Reaper standing behind them. You still get a lot of stacking buffs and debuffs. Whatever, we just don't have Catacrosis +1 save to everything to go to like a 1-up save on things. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, I think that's all my thoughts about the units and all that sort of thing. Like I said, I think I'm going to make another video going over my tournament games and talking a little bit about how this all ends up working out in a battle, in a game, and the game flow and how, all of that good stuff, with obviously some specific examples and some pictures. I haven't uploaded them yet. That's the main reason I did this one first. But yeah, thank you for listening. This went on way longer than I intended it to. Hope you got something of value, some ideas out of this that you might take into your game. For example, take a damn Soul Reaper. Stop doing whatever you're doing. Paint your Soul Reaper and take it and put Shard of Necros on it and profit. Thank you. All right. See you all later.